Okay, welcome back to Advanced Visual Basic class. I think as a recap for what we did last time is that we had looked at several parts of the application. I think we are dealing with the hospital management system, which is here. So we had looked at how to create stored procedures, how to be able to store data, generally just create crowd operations as far as countries are concerned, diseases, and things like that. So, and I left it that you can be able to go ahead and do the crowd operation for all the other entries that you have, all the other entities rather, that you have within your database. So today, I want us to look at how we can create functions and things called views. Then we can look at how we can be able to connect this application to our PHP backend, where now we can be able to call these things directly the um, from the from the PHP environment, which is going to be our backend. And of course, this can be used in any other environment, whether you're going to use Go or you want to use Ruby on Rails or you want to use Node.js or you want to use whichever platform you want to use .NET or whichever backend you want to use, you should be able to connect with this. So let's look at what views are. What are views? A view is basically a virtual table, which means that it's going to be a table that is derived from other tables. And this is important because sometimes you want to be able to extract data in such a way that now you don't want a lot of complexity as far as the queries are concerned. Say, for example, if you looked at our queries when it comes to getting data like getting countries, you'll see we have a lot of joins that we have used in between. So we've used a join here, we've used two joins here. So sometimes you don't want the complexity of somebody who is not very familiar with the database structure to walk around the database. So you just want to give them the data in one single place. So you'd use a view for that. So it will, first of all, control how people are accessing the data, and it removes the complexity of the queries that are used to extract the data. And the good thing is that it is a virtual table, which means it is derived from the other table. So as long as that data keeps on changing on those tables, then your views data also keeps on changing. So I will demonstrate that so that we see how that works out. So I'll create a view here. I'll call it view, maybe say view specializations. Actually, let me just call it view. This is a view called countries like that. So I'm using VW. So you can see initially I'm using SP for stored procedures. Now I'm using VW for views. Of course, it's only the tables that I did not use TBL, but some people also prefer to use TBL for tables and all that. This is important sometimes so that you're able to identify the different objects that you have within your database. So for views, stored procedures, and functions, I usually like to prefix them. So you can see it's create view, then you give the name of the view, then as, then you give your query from here. So here is where I'm going to list my entire query down inside here. So I'll simply say here, for the countries, I'll say select country.all fields, then I'll simply say u dot first name plus u dot middle name plus u dot last name. I'm assuming I want to take the user who added the country. So I have first name, middle name, and last names here. That's why I'm putting you. And I want to put space between each name like that. But this, of course, I have to concatenate it to one string. Concatenate. Concat. Actually, this is concat, not concatenate. It's concatenate, yes, but concat. Like that. This is as added by name, something like that. So I'll get that, then I come here from C is going to be my countries as C. Then I can now do my, this is users, U on U dot user ID is equals C dot added by. I want to believe that's there. Yeah. So you can see then, of course, I don't put a semicolon here. I leave it like that. So you can see now I have put a join here, but I'm calling it a view. So it means that the person who's going to be getting this data will get a list of all the tables from the from the from the from the countries table, all the columns from the countries table, including the name of the person who added, without the complexity of knowing how these two tables are connected. So I'll just run this one like that, and it is successful. And now you can see inside here I have one view called countries. So if I wanted to get data from countries, I'll simply say here select. Remember I said I use the virtual table, so I'll say select all fields from this view called countries. So it will behave like a table, and when I do that, you can see it's giving me a list of all the countries and also the person who added them. Now the only problem I have here is that one of the names is null, which I didn't fix. I can come to this view, I can alter it. You can see it has added all the columns. Instead of saying all fields, it has added them. So here I just say if null. So sometimes it tries to modify your view a bit from what you had used it just for efficiency purposes. Like I told it initially, I got all the fields. So what it has done, it has listed all the field names instead of doing them one by one. So again, not a big deal. I can just rectify that. But you can see my structure was very, very simple. It's only that it has broken this into the many fields that are there in that table. So really, that's how it works. So if I come back here and I run it, now you can see added by name. Now the plus should not have been there. Actually, it should be just comma, not plus. This should be commas, not plus. Sometimes I get commas. So if you look at the simple version, this should be commas. You concatenate strings. You don't add them up. If you add them, it assumes that they are numbers. So that's basically it. That's the simple version. This is what it has complicated as far as listing all the field names are concerned. So run that is successful. When I come back and execute this, now you can see I have the actual names over here. So you can see when I just say countries, I'm getting a table with all the data, and it does not really matter how they're related because it will give me all the columns that I have selected between the view and all the queries, all the relationships that are there, all the joins and whatever it is that I've put, it will be able to put them for me. So the person who is going to access the view does not need to have that complication. And the good thing is that from here, I can even go ahead and filter it. I can even say something like where maybe say default is equals to 1. A default size served word, so you enclose it inside these backticks. So you can see it's still able to work. Or I can say deleted is equals to 1 if there's one that's been deleted or there's some that have been deleted. So you can be able to see it just works as a regular table. Only that now, even if I went ahead and added a country, you will see that this view will change. So that's the beauty of using views. So I can create another view. Let me create another view for titles so that at least we get to understand better. Now, these people were coming late. I gave guys a whole 40 minutes to join. Kindly, once I have started class, please try and join early. I insist on that every other time so that you don't disturb others, so that I have to move back and forth to accommodate you. I'll handle that next time. So let's create another view. We have created one view called countries. We have titles here. Let's create another view for titles. I think this one has data. Yeah, this one has data. So we need to know who added it and who deleted it, for example. So I'll close these ones. I'll leave that. So I'll come here, and actually you could just write the create view directly because it's simple enough. Just say create view, then you say view titles, then you say as, Then you put your statement inside here. You can put inside brackets. If you like, you can actually even put it outside the bracket. It won't really matter. It will still be able to work out. But that is the syntax of creating view. Some people prefer to call the database directly here so that you're sure that is creating it inside the database that you want it created in. So something like that. So create view. So you can see here create view. So you can have the name of the database, then dot, now the name of the view that you want. So name of the database, name of the view that you want, something like that. So here I'll simply say select. I'll simply say title.all fields. Then I'll simply say concat. I'll put a comment here. Added by name. Then I also put deleted by name. If it is deleted, who deleted it, for example. So added by name, I'll simply say here concat. I'll say a dot first name space a dot middle name space if null a dot last name space. So that is added by name, added by name. Then I can put a comma, deleted by, I'll simply say again concat d dot, actually it's the same. So okay, let me just type it, first name, and put some space here. Then I put d dot middle name space d dot last name, and of course the last name can be null, so I'll need to take care of that. If it is null, convert it to a blank. Then I'll simply say deleted by name. And of course all these ones can be null, so I'll just put, because it might, if it's not deleted, it means all these fields are going to be null. So let me just handle that. Like that. So there's a possibility that all these fields can be null, because if it is not deleted, then that last portion will not work. So then I'll say from this table called titles, then I will join this table called users as A, and I'll call this one as T. This one is as A on A dot user ID equals T dot added by. Then now I'll use left outer join, because there's a possibility that that field might be blank and I don't have deleted. So if I use a join, it will check that data exists in both tables, which will not be true. So I'm just trying to show you how you can create different views with different kinds of data, with different kind of joins, and so forth and so forth. So left outer join means this other table called the data might not have been deleted, so it means that the deleted by will be false. So titles is here. So this title, this deleted by might be false. So I'm just trying to mention that if the deleted by is false, then the name will not be there, and of course it's going to show blank. Otherwise, if I put it as just a join, it means that it will check that the only the ones that have been deleted are the ones that are going to appear. So left outer join again, this table called users as D. Sorry, let me have it up here. Users here as D on D dot user ID is equals to T dot deleted by. And I can even go ahead here and order by title name, something like that. So you can see that is how my query would look like. And if everything is fine, this should be able to compile properly. It's giving me an error near from titles. Concat, I did not close this. Sorry, that is, oh, no, that's That's concat here, but I also didn't close this. Yeah, that is closed. That is closed. That's closed. Concat is closed. Yeah. So that was a mistake. So now that you can see that it's fine, it has executed fine. So when I come here, I'll simply say get data from this. So I'll simply say select all fields from the view called titles, and I execute it, and you can see now I have all the columns and the person who added, name of the person who added, and name of the person who deleted, without going through the complexity of writing this. So whoever wants to extract all this data, they'll simply come and say select from view called titles. And if I come here and I refresh this, you'll be able to see now I have a view called titles. So every time you want to create virtual tables, and you want to make it in such a way that you want to hide the complexity of the structure of the database, then you would use a view. As I said, a view is a virtual table. It is derived from other tables, and you can combine as many tables as possible. It will only be able to give you one table, so that now you are able to work with it simply. So you don't need to have the complication of how the database structure looks like. It's a very powerful tool, and once you learn and get used to it, it certainly makes your work a hell lot easier. Are we together? Is that clear? Ladies and gentlemen, is it clear on views? We got something else. You can create all the views that you want. By the way, you must not use views, but I'm just showing you whenever you want to avoid complications in terms of your queries, you can just create those views, then you query data from those views. It certainly makes it much easier to query a view than to be able to write these complex queries inside your script sometimes. So that's very important for us to be able to understand how that works out. Okay. So that's views. Silence means consent. So I'm assuming that if somebody is not saying anything, then it means that we have understood what views are and how they work. Now let's look at functions. A function is just like a stored procedure. The only difference is that a function will return what we call a scalar value. So it will return a stored procedure will return something like a table. A function will return a single value. So, and sometimes functions don't update or your data. They're basically used for selection purposes. So the difference between a stored procedure and a function is that a function will return a single value. We call them scalar functions. So for example, let's say we're talking about a hospital and we want to create patients. As you can see, we have specialists and we have patients. So we have specialists here. We want to record a specialist with what they do, and we want to generate their number, the specialist number. So I'll come here, I'll order this table and probably add here something like specialist number. So I have the specialist number. So that's the number that we give them. Something like maybe SP001, SP002, SP003, something of that sort. So you want to be able, the first one should be SP001, the second one should be SP002, the third one should be SP003. So you want to keep control of how those numbers are generated, and they're generated sequentially. So that's basically an area you probably use a function. So let's see how that works out. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create another table called serials, so that this serial will have the identification. This is the ID. Then there is description. Then we have the prefix. Then we have the current number. Then we have the suffix, if there is any. So this one will be integer. It will be the primary key, and it's going to be under incrementing. This one is going to be variable character 50, but it's also going to be unique. So this is going to be variable character. I don't think the prefix should be more than 5 characters. Current number is going to be integer, and the suffix can also be variable character, something like that. So I'll save this. Okay, variable character 5. So I'll save this. So once I save that serials, I'll come here, I'll open it, and I'll now put this one. I want to generate specialist number. Then I'll simply say this is SP. Then I'll simply say the current number is 1. Do I need to put the suffix? Well, I can put the year. So if I say something like that, it means year. If I say something like something else, probably maybe I can have something. So maybe this is how I want to get it. So in short, what I'm saying is if I open Notepad here, if I'm to register a specialist, I'll simply say this is SP001 2026, something of the sort. Or if I put slash here, so that should be something like SP001 slash 2026. So the next one that's going to be registered should be SP002 slash 2026. And it goes on like that and so forth and so forth. So this is the whole idea of how I want to use this table to be able to generate this specialist number. So you can be able to see at this point, I'm just saying the suffix should be slash the current year. So I'll simply pick the year from my SQL date. Otherwise, if it's not a year, then I can simply put here 2026, something of that sort. Then I'll just be able to put the suffix directly without doing a lot of complication. So let me make it simple like that so that it doesn't also look very complicated. So currently, this is how we want it to look like. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to create a function and we'll call it fn generate specialist number. Generate specialist number. Now, the specialist number will not take any arguments, but of course, as you can see, it will have to return some data. And in this case, since this data is alphanumeric, as you can see over here, it's going to be variable character. So I'm going to return variable character 50 in length. So in short, this function is going to return a data type that is variable character. Okay. Then now I can write my function down here. So what I'll simply do is, if you look at this function, I'll simply take the prefix, I'll count how many characters are there in the current number, then I'll add the suffix. So what I can do here is I can declare a variable called page number, which is variable character 50, like that. Once I do that, I'll simply say select. Now I want to start with the prefix, so I'll simply come to this table called serials, and I'll pick the prefix. Then after picking the prefix, the next thing I'll do is to count how many characters are there. So I'll simply say, it usually say case, case when. So I can't use if here, I'm going to use case. So here I'm just checking the how many characters are there so that I know how many zeros to add. So you can see if it is 1, I'll add 3 zeros. If it is 2, I'll add 2 zeros. If there are 3, I'll add 1 zero. If there are 4, I don't add any zero. So I'm assuming these numbers are not said, the specialists are not supposed to exceed 10,000. So something of that sort. So guess when I think it's car length. Guess when actually, let me put car length here. Then I check for the value. Guess car length. Which car length am I checking? This current number. So when it is 1, guess car length. When 1, then I'll put 3 zeros. When 2, then I'll put 2 zeros. When it is 3, then I'll put 1 zero. Otherwise, I'll put blank and I'll end that case. So that is how I check. So I'm checking the character length, how many characters are here in current number. So if it is 1, so as you can see, currently it's at 1. 1 is, if you count how many characters this is just 1. But if it is something like 200, these are 3. If it is 20, those are 2. If it is 2000, those are 4. So what I'm just trying to check is how many characters are there so that I know how many zeros to add. So if they are more than 3, then don't add any don't pad any zeros. So, but if it is 3, pad 1 0. If it is 2, pad 2 zeros. If it is 1, pad 3 zeros. Otherwise, you end that. So I'll do that. Then I'll now add the suffix like that. Now, as you can see here, the only thing I need to do is now to concatenate these things because I need to join them together. Concat this, that, and that. So let me just put them in separate lines so that you're able to see them clearly. So that's what I'm concatenating. So what I'm going to do, I'm saying concatenate, take the prefix, check how many characters are making up the length, then add the zeros appropriate, then add the suffix. Then from here, I can simply say from this table called serials, where this description matches this data over here. So I want to generate this, something of the sort. Then once I'm done, I can simply say select, before I use from, let me put it into that variable of mine, into reg number, into reg number. Sorry, reg number, reg number. So I'm just inserting, I'm just generating this one, then I'm putting it inside this variable, of course, from wherever it comes. Then once I'm done, I'll simply say return the reg number. Then I stop at that. So this is how we can declare that function. So I've declared a variable called reg number. I have concatenated the prefix. I've checked how long the correct number is depending on the length. So I want to be able to pad zeros. Then once I'm done, I'll take whatever has been generated into reg number. Then I return that registration number. So that is how I'll generate the specialist number. So I'll run that. If everything is fine, it should be successful, as you can be able to see. And then now I have a function called generate specialist number. Now, how do I test if it is working or not? I'll simply come here and I'll simply say select, then I'll put the function name. Then it doesn't have any parameters, so I'll close the parameters. Then I'll just execute it directly like that. So you can see it has generated that. Now, what I missed the current number. So you can see it has put SP and 3 zeros, but it has not put for me the current number. So what I'm going to do is I'll just alter this and I will add here, before the suffix, I need to add the current number like that. So prefix, pad zeros, current number, then suffix. So I'll run that. Then I'll come back here and I'll check. And now you can see it works fine. It is able to generate for me. It is able to generate for me the specialist number. So that's a use case for function where you want to perform something and you want to return a scalar value like this. So I can even store this inside a variable and use it inside my stored procedure for other purposes. As you can see, while we are adding other things, I could simply say, where is that save country? So on the countries here, I could have simply said the dialing code is this. So I can actually generate the dialing code from this function, as you can see here, sorry. As you can see, where is that? Yeah, so I can generate it here, then now probably use it. So that's where we use function. And you can use as many functions as you would possibly want. Any question up to that point? Now, these are very important techniques that I'm showing you because if you want to do something that generates something like a patient number, you see we have a patients here, and the patient has a patient number. If I want to generate a patient number based on probably say some numbers, maybe say we have branch, then from branch we have uh, the year that they were registered, then the serialization. Now you should be able to generate that automatically. Okay, so that's why I'm taking my time to do this, because you are not going to keep track of this. The system is going to keep track of this for you. So after that, of course, once you run your script, you'll be able to just go ahead and increment the counter, so it knows that now I'm on number 2, now I'm on number 3, now I'm on number 4, now I'm on number 1050, 1051, and so forth and so forth. It should be able to generate those numbers as we move along. Okay, so that is functions, and that is how functions are going to be used within your application. And in any case, trust me, you are going to use quite a number of functions. I can just give you an example. I have a payroll system here. You can see I have quite a number of functions in between. The ones that calculate lost hours, the ones that check who are on leave, the ones that compute pay, and things like that. This is a payroll system. So you can see, just like I have a number of stored procedures, I'll also be able to have functions as far as your system is concerned. They just make your work a hell lot easier when it comes to doing things that require you to be able to generate something and return a single value, something like numbers, or maybe computing a very complex calculation and just giving you the total or something of that sort. I want to do the total of a receipt. What is the total of this particular receipt? Then maybe, well, receipt is easier because I'll just do sum. But say if I want to compute something like pay as you earn, which is a bit complicated, then you probably create a function for doing that. So a function is different from a stored procedure because it returns a single value. That is why that's the only difference between a function and a stored procedure. So, and of course, as you have seen, the syntax is also a bit different because it has to return. You have to tell it what kind of data it returns. Then you have to return that value once you're done with generating the value. So here I've just generated the value from this table called serials, and I've inserted into this variable. Then that variable is what I am returning. And as you have seen, that works very, very well. Any question on that? That works very, very well. Of course, you can call it as specialist number. If you don't like this heading that's appearing here, like that, so it will be able to work out. Okay. Any question up to that point? Any question up to that point? All right. So if there's no question, when it comes to triggers and events, I'll leave those ones out because yeah, you can use them. Triggers are good because you can use them to check what is happening inside your database and probably do backup or restrict some operations or things like that. But for now, I'll not focus on them. Probably maybe if time allows, I can come back and look at them in future so I show you exactly what they are and how they work. Same with events. Events are when you want something to be done repeatedly. So maybe say I want the system to do something repeatedly after some period of time, maybe say daily, maybe hourly, maybe after 3 days, maybe yearly. So I want it to execute something at a certain frequency, then I'll be able to use events for that. So it's more like creating a job schedule so that the database that does that on its own. So it does not need anybody to log into the system to do that. Say something like a backup. If you want to do a backup every day at 10 p.m., then probably you would use an event to achieve that. If you want to remove all the patients who are inactive for the last 1 year, you can use a schedule for that, and so forth and so on. So this is something that you can be able to allow the system to do on its own without the input of a user. So that's what events are. And as I've said, I'm not going to focus on them right now because we have a lot of still. So I'll move into the next thing that we're supposed to do, which is now how do we connect our application to this database? Then how do we execute these statements and see how exactly they work? So in short, I want to show you how we can create our APIs and test them and see that they're actually working as they should be able to work. Then that part should be able to clear up what backend design is all about. Then you're only left with how we can create our front end and how we can link our front end to our back end. So let's switch gears and go back to PHP. So what I'm saying is we are moving to PHP so that we can be able to see how we can connect PHP to our MySQL database and how we can make it work. So what I'm going to do, because I'm using PHP, I'm going to go into Drive C, a folder called XAMPP here, then a folder called htdocs here, because this is the root of my um, my, my web server. Then here I'll create a new folder and I'll call it hospital, or you can call it HMS or whatever name you want to do, call it hospital like that. Now, this is where we are going to put our entire application. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open Visual Studio Code. Here, you can use any IDE that you want. There's PHP Storm. There's quite a number of IDEs that you can use. So I'll say open folder. Then I'll open that folder called hospital like that. So this is where we want to put our entire application. Okay, so we're going to use what we call object-oriented programming, and this is how it's going to look like. So first of all, we're going to create some folders. So we'll have a folder for models. Models is the things that are going to be touching our database, our entries directly. Then you're going to have another folder or another directory called, so you click down outside here and create a folder and now call it controllers. Controllers are the ones that are now going to be able to interact with the models. So one of the models we will have is one that helps us to connect to the database directly. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a, um, a class that connects to the database. Then that class is going to be inherited with all the other models. So I'll come here inside models and I'll create a class here and I'll call it db.php. So this is going to be my class where I'm going to put all the connections as far as the database elements are concerned. So here I will probably start PHP and close PHP. That's sorry, and close PHP like that. So maybe Control plus to make the font a little bit bigger. Yeah, I think that is more visible. So first of all, here, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to create a class called db class, not class, what's happening with it? The class database like that. Then this class called database is going to have several methods. Of course, let's start with the variables. It will have several variables. So we'll have a variable for connecting the server. So I'll have here, let me call them private. Now I'm just copying so that it means that whatever is private is not going to be accessible outside this particular class. So I'll simply say private server name is equals to, we'll put it later. Then we'll say private, not private. Besides database, we also need to have the username and the password. So we have username. Here I'll put it blank, the database username. I also need the password. I don't know, I'm writing private, it's private, password. Then I also have the database name. These ones don't change. Private. Is it this keyboard or is it me? Private DB name. I'll also give the name of the DB. Do I need any other variables from there? No, I don't think I need any other variable from there. Yeah, I think that is fine. Well, maybe I can put the character set. Private character set. This is because I'm using MySQL. Otherwise, if you're using something like SQL Server, you won't need that. Yeah, I think that's enough. Now, these are the variables that can only be accessed within the class itself. You cannot be able to access them outside the class. Now, when it comes to the database, there are several methods that I'll want to put. So one of the methods will be to connect. I need to connect to a database. So that's one thing I need to do. That's one. Number two, the other thing I'll need to do is to get data. I need to get data, and to get data, I'll need to pass in a query. So I'll give it the query to execute so that I get data. Then I might also need to get JSON. I might also need to get JSON. Sorry, these people are. So function get JSON. What this get JSON does, it will just extract data, but convert them into a JSON object because we want to create an API, and all API data should come in JSON format. So I'm just creating a helper function that will help us to extract the data and bring it as a JSON object. So this is practically enough for us to be able to do now. Why I'm doing this inside the DB is because I want to inherit all this functionality um, in any models I'm going to create. I want to be able to connect to the server, I want to be able to get data, and I want to convert that data into JSON so that I don't have to repeat myself over and over again, hence object-oriented programming. So what I could do here is, first of all, I might need to set these values. I might need to set these values so that now we have something to work with. So first and foremost, I'll simply provide the server name and the character set. Of course, the other details will come. So I'll simply say this referring to the current object. Let's start with server name, and I'll put that as localhost because we're going to use localhost, semicolon. Then this username will be root. This dot username will be root. Then password is blank. Password is blank. I don't have any password for my local database. Then, of course, we have DB name. The database name is hospital. I think it's hospital. Yes, it's hospital. Then, of course, the character set, I think it's UTF-8 MB4. Char set is equals, is it UTF-8 MB4? Yeah, I think it's UTF-8 MB4. If I'm not UTF, okay, I'll check MB4. This one should be able to take all characters. Now, these are the parameters I need to connect to my database. Now, once I connect to my database, the other thing I need to do is just now to try and connect, and if there's any error, I'll simply catch up that error. Now, I'm using something called PDO. I'm going to use PDO for this particular operation, so you bear with me. Now, it's the best way. You can use MySQL, but PDO is better because if I change the database to something else, then I don't need to change anything. Otherwise, if I use MySQL, it means that if I use SQL Server or Oracle or any other database like MongoDB and all that, then I'll have to change a lot of things. So that's why I'm going to use PDO. PDO means PHP database object. So I only need to change the connection details, and the rest of the things would work without changing anything else. So I'll use PDO for this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a try here. And if the try does not work, of course, I'm going to do a catch. And in this catch, of course, I'll get the PDO exception and I will be able to handle it down here. So these are very good practice. You try, then catch the error, and then you carry on. So what are we trying? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to create my data source name. So I'll simply say create a variable called DSN or data source name. And this DSN, give it the parameters we need. So the DSN, I'll give it the drivers I want to use. So in this case, it's going to be MySQL. And for this MySQL, I'm going to give it a host. And this host, of course, I'm going to give it my server name. So what you can do here, just put MySQL host, then you put an equal to sign, then you put now this host is server name, like that. Then after server name, you put a semicolon, of course, to separate the two parameters. Then I'll put my DB name. Then my DB name will be this DB name. then semicolon. After DB name, of course, I'll need the character set. Yeah, I need character set, so I'll simply say here char set is equals this char set. Yeah, char set. Yeah, I think that's okay. So why I was saying using a DNS using PDO is important is if I was to change this to something else, the only thing that will change to a different database, the only thing that will change is this portion over here. So the drivers will change, and of course how I'm going to connect is also going to change. That's the only thing that's going to change. Otherwise, moving forward, everything else would remain intact. And I think this should be able to work because PHP allows me to embed variable names inside a string. So that should be able to work properly. Now, the other thing I need to do is I need to create a new PDO object here. So on this PDO object, I'll simply specify it's a new PDO object. And on this PDO object, I'll need to tell it which data source name to use. So I'll put my DSN here, DSN. Then I'll put my username, database username, which is this.username, not a straight variable, this.username. Then I'll put the database password, which is this.password. So that should allow me to try and connect to the database. Then of course, if everything is okay, I'll just return the PDO. If the connection is fine, I'll return the PDO. Now, if probably the only thing I need to set, before I return, I need to set the error attributes here. Yeah, before I return here, I need to set error attributes. So here, let me set some attributes so that now I am able to return the error. So I'll simply say this PDO object, I want to be able to set attributes. I want to be able to set attribute, and these attributes, they are going to be two. One of them is going to be the error mode, and the other one is going to be the error mode exception. So I'll say PDO. I'll put a namespace of this one is surely ATTR. It's not completing. I think it's error mode. I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it's that. I think it's error mode. The other PDO object, the other namespace should be. Is it error mode exception? Error mode exception. Error mode exception. Yeah, I think that's I think that's it. So so those two should allow me to be able to. These two attributes should be able to allow me to set the error mode and the exceptions that are going to be sent. So this one's basically just allow me to be able to trap errors when errors are caught within the application. I hope that's the correct syntax. Otherwise, if they are not, I'll probably check why that is so. So when I'm catching here, of course, I'll also use the PDO exception. PDO exception as E, as exception, something like that. So this error that is going to be trapped, if any, I want to trap it as E. And if something does not work right, I can simply output on the screen. I can simply say echo, maybe something like connection failed. Then probably I can give the error. I'll simply say e dot get message. It's not dot per se, but it's that. Sorry, I'm used to dot because on JavaScript we use dot. In PHP we don't use dot, we use this. Dash with a greater than sign to means I'm accessing a property of the error object. So I think at that point, this should allow me to be able to connect to my database properly. If I'm assuming everything's going to work fine. If it doesn't work okay, then we'll come back and debug and try and see what could have happened. But I think this is the easiest way to connect to your database. So I'm putting a DSN here because in future, if you're to change to something like maybe Oracle or SQL Server or maybe Postgres or anything like that, the only thing you need to change is the driver here and how you access the host and the database name and the character set and all that. Then the rest of the things remain intact. You don't need to change anything in your application. Hence, we are trying to learn the best practices as far as this is concerned. So once we are able to connect to a database, the other thing we need to do is to just return data. So we said if you want to return data, I'm going to give some SQL statement and I'm going to simply execute that query. So what I'm going to do here is for getting data, I'll simply say return rather. Oh my goodness, okay. Then I'll say get the current object and I'll simply say connect. When give you a PDO object, then on this PDO object, execute this query like that. You can see now that makes it very, very simple. So connect will come and do all this. So connect, this portion for connect will execute everything here. And if it is fine, it's going to return a PDO object. If it returns a PDO object, then I will query on that PDO object. So if it does not connect, then it will display an error. So you can see I have technically dealt with so many issues just by having this function over here. So now, what about if I want to get the data? So what I could do for getting the data, I'll just create a record set here, and I'll call this record set. I'll simply say get data SQL. So what it will do is that this will execute this portion. This portion will execute this portion, which means it executes the database, then gives me some data, the PDO object. If PDO is okay, it executes the query that has been mentioned, then that query is returned. When it's returned, I'm going to store it inside this variable. So you can see I'm just reusing the things that I've done. Now, why I'm writing this differently is at this point, I just want to return a JSON object. So I just want to do the exact same thing, but return a JSON object. So what I'm going to do here, I'm not going to say return, then I'll say JSON encode. Then I'll simply say pick this record set and fetch all the records that are there. Now, fetch all by default uses what we call an associative array, but sometimes if you want to be specific, you could simply say get me as an associative array. It's usually, I think it's fetch associative. It's the default. Sometimes I just like being overly clear on how it should do it, but this is the default way that it should be able to do it. This is the default. If you're not comfortable with that default, then just make sure that you tell it to give you in form of an array. Now, this is very important. I have handled so many things over here. I have created a DB class, and I've mentioned that this DB class is able to connect to my database. And if it is able to connect, then it will return the PDO. After it returns the PDO, I can get data, which means I just execute something against the database directly, or I might want to get back that data as JSON, which means I want to return data so that it can be used for my user interface. So this one here will be for storing data. You can use this for storing data. You can use this for getting data for your user interface. So this should be able to work properly as far as the database connectivity is concerned. Now, this is very important for us to understand. We're going to try it out in a few minutes, don't worry, but this is ideally how this works out. Now, that's the database class. Now, let's create one for creating a title. So to create a title, I'll simply create a new file here, and I'll say title.php. All right. So again, this is going to be a PHP file. So begin PHP, PHP, close that. Now I'm using PHP because it's the most popular programming language on the web. So that's why I am using it. If you go to hosting companies, 90% are running PHP. So that's why I've decided to use it as an example for this. As I said, you can still use Node, you can still use Ruby on Rails, you can use Go, you can use Python, you can really use any language. The whole point is just know how you can be able to connect your database, then now be able to now inherit those properties. So here, I'm going to first of all, because I want to inherit everything that is inside here. I want to inherit everything that is inside here. So what I'll need to do here is I'll say require once, then I'll simply put the name of the file, which is db.php. What it will do is that it will take this content and paste it inside here. So it will inherit it like that. That's what require means. Then from there, I'll create a new class called title. I will say it extends the database class, so that now I don't have to repeat myself in terms of connect, get data, get JSON. I don't need to repeat myself on that. It will automatically inherit those methods. You did object-oriented programming, and I'm sure you did that. So here, I'll just create a function called save title. I'll create another function or methods get titles. Then I can create another function delete title, like that. So I need those three things. So to save the title, first and foremost, I'll need to generate the SQL statement, and I'll simply say call. And we have done this before. So to save the title, I have here save title. And this is it. It has title ID, title name, and user ID. We said user ID, we're going to use user ID number 1. Once we are done with the login interface, then you can be able to provide the details. So it is save title. I'll need title ID. I'll need title name. And I'll need the user ID. So this user ID, I can actually have it here. By default, I'm going to give it the value of 1 by default. But once we create login, then you're going to set this when the user logs in. So you can be able to change it when the user logs in. For now, just going to say this is going to be this user ID. Now, I need to pass this to, have to come from the user. Sorry. So title and name have come from the user. Now here, title ID is a number. So I'll just have it like that. This other one is a string. So I'll need to enclose it like that, inside single quotes. Then this one is also a number, like that. So something like that. All right, so that will allow me to be able to save that. So then here what I'm going to do is I'm just going to say this get data. Now this refers to the current element. Get data has already been defined here. Get data, as you can see, I only need to give it a SQL statement. It's going to connect to the database and execute that query automatically. All right, so that's the reason why we are doing that. So I'll say get data, then I'll give the SQL statement, which is what I have coined up here. So you can see I have coined the statement up here. I'm just calling it, and of course, if everything is fine, then I'll simply say return. Then I'll say status will be success. Then the message would be title saved successfully. This is an associative array which we can convert back to JSON. Of course, if you wanted to check if the title exists, I don't know if we checked if the title exists. We didn't check, but I think when you're saving the title, we checked if it exists inside. So it's going to save either way, only that when it exists, it's not going to have it inside the database because it's going to be already existing. So then how do you get titles? To get titles again, we're going to put an SQL statement. We're going to say call. Now we're going to come back here. And how do you get titles? They are here, get titles. So I'll simply say get titles. And as you can see, it doesn't have any other variables. So I'll just say get titles. Now, because this is data that's going to be used on my user interface, I'll simply return this getJSON SQL. So getJSON will automatically convert this associative array into a JSON encoded object, which is what the browser is able to read on the other side. So that's why I created get data. As you can see, when I want to save, get data. When I want to save, I say get data. When I want to extract data from the database and return to the user interface, I use get JSON. That's why I created the two of them. So for deleting, again, I'll put here SQL and I'll call delete title, which is here. So I'll pick delete title from here. I'll need to pick the name and the variables. So for deleting title, I need the title, I need the reason, and the user who has logged in, I'll pick from the database object because I'll be able to save that when the user logs in. So these are the only two that needs to be provided for. Yeah. So from here, title is a number, so enclose in curly braces. Reason is a string, so put a string, then curly braces. Then this is also a number, enclose like that. So again, because this one is involving just storing data, I'll simply say response. Actually, should have said response here. It's not a must, but it makes it easier to read. Return response, something like that. So response would be this, get data, SQL. That's not even the response, that will just execute. Then the response comes later. So the response would be this. The only difference would be the message. Title deleted successfully. So you can see now here what I've done is I have been able to create two classes. One for the database class, which will allow me to be able to connect to the database and perform operations on the database, that is storing data or extracting data. Then I've created another one called title, which extends the database class, which means it has all the functionality that this one has. Then it has its own functionality for saving the title, getting the titles, and deleting a title. So the only thing I need now to do, remember, these models, they're more like what we call templates. A model is like a template. It's like when you want to cook cake and then you have those what do you call them, those containers where you pour your ingredient to make the cake. So that's more like a template. So a template does not do anything. It only helps you to take your ingredients, put it in, then prepare your actual cake. So as it is, these are going to be just files seated on your server and they're not going to do anything. So moving forward, now what we want to do is we want to be able to now invoke or to create an instance of these objects. Then we can now be able to execute the functionality and see if it is actually working. So what I'm going to do here, inside controllers, I'm going to create a file and I'll call it title operations. Title operations like that. Okay, so title operations means I'm going to take all these operations and I'm going to execute them when a user requests for that particular operation. So again, I'll put PHP here. Sorry, I'll put PHP here. Now I will need to get this title inside here so that I can be able to instantiate it. Okay, so I'll simply say require once. Then I'll jump one level because they're not in the same folder. I need to get outside control. And this file is inside controllers. So I need to get outside controller. That gets me outside controllers. Then I need to go inside the models. So that is inside models. Then inside models, I need to get title.php, which is this file. So that will allow me to be able to have the contents of this file copied inside here. Then I'll create a new class called, a new variable called title, which will be a new instance of title. So this title here is a class. which extends the database class. This title here is a variable which is an instance of this class. So now once it's a variable like that, then now we can be able to invoke its method. So the only thing I'm going to do is I'm going to check what the user is trying to do. So I'm going to say if is set post, then I'll simply say save title like that. If the user says save the title, this is what you do. So I'll simply say title ID equals post title ID like that. Then title name equals post title name. I like using title case title name like that. Then I'll simply say response equals my current title. Then execute this method called save title like that. So once I save it, I'll simply say echo JSON encode response. So what it means is that if it is successful, it will tell me successful. If it fails for any reasons, it will also give me the error on why it has failed. So this is why now we are saying we are going to invoke, we are going to instantiate the the object, then we're going to invoke its method depending on what the user wants to do. So here I'm checking if somebody is trying to save the title by initiating a post method and they say save the title. Then they give the title ID and the title name. I should be able to tell them to execute and tell them whether it's successful or not. Then if is set, I'm going to use get titles. If somebody is trying to get titles, this is going to be straightforward. I'll simply say echo title. The method here was get titles, which is here. I know what it is. I just wanted to refer back to make sure that it's okay. So that should be able to return for me all the titles. Now, why is this important? Because get JSON already encodes the data. If you come here, get JSON already encodes the data. That's why I'm not using encode on it. These other ones, this is going to be an array. That's why I'm encoding that array. So if you look at closely here, these ones are going to be arrays. So anything that does not involve getting data, either saving or deleting, I'm going to be returning an array, and that array needs to be returned, needs to be converted, or needs to be encoded as a JSON object. Otherwise, you are going to end up with errors. So then if we say you want to delete, that's also going to be a post. Anytime you're dealing with an operation that does not involve fetching data, use post. So delete title. So if I have delete title like that, then I'll simply say title ID equals post title ID. Then I have reason equals post reason. Then now my response would be this title variable of mine, execute the method for deleting it, which is this. Like that, and I put it here. Then what I do, I simply say echo JSON encode response. Like that. And trust me, at this particular point, we have created our APIs, and if everything goes according to plan, they should be able to connect to our database, save title, get titles, or delete titles. The only problem is we don't have a user interface for this, but there's a solution for that. So there's a way you can still be able to test this without having created the user interfaces in the first place. And the tool is called Postman. It's not Postman only. There are quite a number of tools that you can be able to use to test that, but I'm going to use Postman for now. So if you don't have Postman installed, just install it. You can go to postman.com. You can go to Google here. Then you type Postman. Then you download it and install it inside your computer. It's free of charge. It does not, you don't get charged anything. So you install it if you don't have it yet. The other is if you have it, like me, simply run it. I have it here, so I'll open it up so you're able to see if this is going to work out. So I'll give it a minute to fire up. Then what I will do is I'll create a new, well, I can even use this one, but I can create a new request here. I want to use, as you can see here, I said, if I said post. So it means I'm going to change this one into a post. Then I'm going to put my URL, which is localhost. I have a folder called hospital, as you can see here, /hospital. Then inside hospital, I have controllers over here, which is controllers. That's what I'm executing. Then inside the controller, I have title operations.php. So I have title operations.php. Then from here, I need to know what I'm doing. So first of all, I want to save a title. So I'll come here and say save title, and I'll put it to true. That's one. Then I have title ID. So I'll put here title ID. I'll put referent. Title ID is 0 if you are creating a new one. Then I'll put title name. It will be reverend, something like that. So with this, if everything is fine, I should be able to see response here that says successful. The title has been saved successfully. And if I go to my database and I open this table called titles, I should be able to see reverend inside here if everything was successful. So I'll run that and it gives me one. Well, not quite what I expected. Let me just check if it has added. It has not added. That's strange. So let's go back and see. Oh, this one is post. Sorry, I did it wrongly. I should have come to body here. Then I say form data. Then I put my values here. For post, it's save title. That will be true. The params are for get, not for post. So you should come to body, form data, then you put the values here. So then title ID is 0. Then title name is referent. Then I send it. Now it's telling me undefined variable user ID. So there's an undefined variable user ID. So let's see. So if I come to title here and I have this .user ID and I come to my database and I say user ID, it's there. Oh, when you say private, it means it cannot be accessed outside the scope. So either you make it public or you just remove that. By default, it's going to be public. So if you put this, sorry, if you put that or you omit it, it means the same thing. So I'll correct that, then I'll try again. So error unexpected, quote. So it's expecting something. Let me see. User ID is okay. Save, that's okay. Title, it's expecting something. Let me see, what is it saying? Line number 9. Model.php, line number 9. Public should be the default. Undefined variable user ID. Near 1. near one. Did I miss out anything here? Let me see. On title here. This is okay. This is okay. This is okay. No, that's delete. Save here. Oh, I missed here. This comma is in the wrong place. This should not be there. Yeah, I think that's in the wrong place. So there was a wrong variable because this shouldn't matter whether I put public or private. Let's try again. User, okay. Let me just put public. Call to undefined function JSON. Okay, you see this one is encode. I've written it wrongly. It should be encode, not what I've written. And this should be title operations line number 10. So title operations line number 10. This one is wrong. It should be encode. But ideally, what has happened is that if you come to the database, you should be able to find reverend because that's a different error. So you can see reverend is already there, but you can add another one so that you see that it's successful. So let's add. Do you have prof here? We have prof. Let me try and get people's titles. E.g., Mr., Mrs., etc. We have sister. Oh, we have Miss, MS. Did you have MS? So we don't have Miss here, so let's add Miss. So let's put 0, then we put MS. MS for Miss. Then save. You can see it's telling me it's successful. And if I come back to my database, I should be able to see now Miss is there. So we know that the save is working. Let's try to edit the Miss. Miss is ID number 8. Let's put MIS. So I'll come here and put ID 8. Then I put Miss. That's successful. Then try it out here and see if it has saved. It has saved it successfully. So you can see it's updating it. Now let's get a list of all the the people. Just a second. Kivato, I'm finalizing a class. I'm calling you back in like 5 minutes. Okay. So as I was saying, now we can come. We have seen save is working. Okay. Let me open another. It's get. The URL is the same up to this point. So the only thing I'm going to do is to get titles. And I'll set that to true because we have said here, if somebody says get titles, then we're just going to output for them the titles in form of a JSON object. So I'm going to run that, and if everything is fine, you can see I have all the titles here. I have Doctor, I have Miss, I have Mr., I also have Mrs., and I also have Reverend. Prof is not there because I think prof has been deleted. So you can see that also works. So let's delete the last one that we have just done, which is the miss here, so that we see again if it comes out. So again, I'll put the URL here. But again, deleting is a post method. I'm going to come to body and form data, and I'll say delete title, which is true, and title ID is 8, and reason 8 rather, and reason is this was a test entry from Postman, like that. So if everything is fine, it should tell me it was deleted successfully. So it's telling me title ID is missing. So let's go and check title ID. I can see it's there. So that's why you need to test all of them. So post title ID. Now this is wrongly spelled. That should be title ID. So I spelled it wrongly. Again, you can try that. Try. Title ID is still missing on line number 18. Title ID. What did I call it here? I think that's it. So it's returning now. That's strange because let me check if it deleted it from the database. It has deleted it. So let me see the area where I might have made a mistake in terms of response title. Okay, delete title. Okay. So I did not return this. That's the issue. I was supposed to return the response. Again, you can see when it comes to writing code, you would definitely make mistakes along the way. So just correct them as we go along. So I'll pick another one. Let me delete. Let me delete Reverend here. So I want to delete Reverend. That is ID number 7. So 7. Your test entry from Postman for Reverend. Then I'll run it, and I can tell it. You see, it tells me still successfully. The title was deleted, and when I come back to my database, you can see it has actually been deleted. So if I was to come back and list all the titles that are there, you can see now I only have Doctor, I have Mr., I have Mrs. Okay, so that is essentially how you're supposed to create your APIs and how you're supposed to test them. But as you can see, it's very important for us to understand how we can work with stored procedures, functions, and views to be able to perform these operations, then carry them over into our backend. In this particular case, I am using PHP for this particular case. And that is how you're going to create all the others. So as you can see, I've done for us CRUD operations when it comes to the title. I can create a title, I can edit a title, I can get the titles, I can also delete a title right outside Postman. So I don't necessarily need to test them inside MySQL, even though as you're doing them, you might want to be able to test them inside. As you're writing them, you test that they're working. So when you come to Postman, you know that your backend is actually foolproof and it's working okay. Any question up to that point? Class, any question up to that point? I know it's past 9, so I want to stop at that. You can type in the chat if there is any question. You can also unmute your mic and ask whatever you do not understand. I'm going to share this video after this. Just make sure you follow it. Just make sure you follow it up. Then we should be able to see how that works out. Any question or comment? Okay, I'm not seeing any hands raised up. I'm not seeing any questions on the chat, and I'm also not seeing any microphone unmuted. So I will assume there's no question up to this point. So what I will do in that particular case is I will share this recording with your class rep. Just go through it again and again so that now you you make sure that you are able to understand whatever you've done, and you can be able to replicate that to your environment and apply it for the other components that the other entities that we have within our database. I've only done titles. We have so many other things like countries and everything else. So just make sure that you add that. Then we can be able to see the next step, which is now creating a user interface and attaching it to the backend which you have just created. So then that should give you a clearer picture on how these particular elements work together. Is that okay? All right, so we'll take a break at that. I'll share this with the class rep, then I hope to see you again next time. Have a wonderful rest of the day, okay?